Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for the hearing today. Mr. Whitaker, thank you for being with us, and thank you for the time to visit by phone. And Madam Chairman, I hope we can move soon to the FAA Reauthorization Act and get that finished. The House passed their mark on that bill back in July, and we need to take that up so we can all move forward. Mr. Whitaker, let's talk a little bit about drones, which we did as we visited last week. As we noted, DOD, CISA, let's see, Interior, Commerce, and Treasury have all warned about the threats that are there as we look at Chinese drones. And because of that, I introduced the Stop Illicit Drones Act, and it would prohibit the FAA from operating or providing federal funds to certain foreign drone companies. And this is all to protect us and our country. And I'd like to hear from you, if you're confirmed, what will you do to guard against this threat that we have from Chinese drones, and how are you going to raise awareness on this issue?
Thank you, Senator Blackburn, and thanks for taking the time last week for us to meet. This is a very serious issue, and I think national security, protecting our airspace, protecting our intellectual property as an economy are all very important issues. The FAA's role here is to really work with various other agencies, law enforcement agencies, to make sure we have the adequate protections in place, regardless of where the drone is manufactured, to protect, particularly from my perspective, the airspace.
Okay, and Chinese drones specifically, would you agree with prohibiting federal funds for the purchase of these drones?
I'll certainly defer to this body on the legislation that they put forward, and I'll defer to the law enforcement agencies on how to best approach it. But clearly, there are risks associated with drones in that category. Yes.
Okay, I want to talk with you about 5G because I have an amendment that I filed to the Reauthorization Act to create an R&D grant program to develop, test, and certify standards for ensuring the telecom industry and the FAA can meet installation requirements for next-gen radio by 2024. So do you believe that this would help mitigate the FAA broadband carrier dispute over 5G in planes?
I think there's been tremendous progress in resolving this issue, and I know that the industry is equipped. I think the level's over 90% now of equipage to include mitigations for any interference from the 5G. So I think I'll continue to work with you on making sure that is completed.
Okay, that is great because that is something we need to see completed. The New York Post earlier this year had an article on the epidemic surrounding aviation employees using their credentials and privileges to smuggle drugs through airports and on to airplanes. And I, like many of my colleagues, have worked visiting different airports and looking at some of these issues. And so how do you plan to work with TSA to counter these illegal operations that are being carried out on the tarmac at some of our nation's airports?
We would certainly follow the lead of TSA and any other law enforcement agencies involved in stopping those activities and contribute to that, stopping them as much as we could.
Well, build on that a little bit. How would you work with other entities that are there in the aviation ecosystem to ensure that these guys are not going to be on the tarmac and are not going to be able to carry this out?
So our security folks at FAA have well-established networks of cooperation with the various agencies, so we can track that down through that network and find out how we can contribute to fighting this.
I've got one other question I'll submit to you, but it has to do with some of the bilateral aviation safety agreements that we have in place. And we've had some issues with the lack of leadership within the FAA as we look at these, not honoring either the letter or the spirit of the law. I'll send that to you for a written response. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. I want to just say,